Thank you guys so much for being here. We have just got a little bit of a taste of kind of what the project is about, and Kenneth, what you've been doing this season. But Mikel, I think it would be useful maybe for you to start a little bit at the beginning, just for people who might not know, where did the idea for Team Amani first begin for you?
Well, it didn't start with me. When I first, so my day job, I'm an international criminal lawyer, and I was working in East Africa for my day job, and I'm also a cyclist, so I knew the professionals that were racing at the time, and they just kept coming up to me and telling me that they were running against, the same obstacles. And one professional in particular, Rachel Jary, was really keen to do something about it. And so, he started articulating the challenges, and one of the big challenges was lack of racing opportunities. And then we just started thinking creatively about looking at what had been done in the past, and then trying to troubleshoot and find creative solutions to try to overcome that, so that these athletes with fantastic potential could show the world what they could do.
And Kenneth, what about for you? Where did your journey with Team Amani begin? Were you there from the start?
I've been there from the start, from the first migration, because it was like when all the cables started to touch me to the project, and from there till now I've been with Amani.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what are your earliest memories of riding a bike? Why did you get into cycling in the first place?
I was just a normal boy in the village, but who just like to ride the bike. I used to ride a single-speed bike from my uncle, which I could just go around just for fun. Yeah, I had never seen a professional cyclist going around. This thing just came to develop afterwards.
So when did you first start racing?
I started to race when I was still in high school, just the local races, and from there I just improved and became a mechanic and things like this, and
I think it's interesting actually, just so everyone can track maybe the certain small things you know about Kenyan cycling. His first coach was David Kinja, who was also Chris Froome's first coach.
No way, that's so cool.
We're hoping that Kenneth's arc is similar to Chris's. But yeah, it's still early days, right?
Yeah.
So obviously the focus of Amani has become off-road and gravel racing. Mikel, can you talk a little bit about why that was the discipline you kind of chose for the team?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of reasons. One, if we looked, so again, everything that we've done, we kind of just started with the problems and then tried to come up with creative solutions. And also to play to our strengths, from an infrastructural point of view, we don't have, in Kenya, there are plenty of paved roads, of course, but they're congested, just like they are in a lot of places in the world, right? But there are a lot of gravel roads with way less congestion. And so we just thought, the onset of gravel, it's upswing in popularity. The ability to, if our guys to train naturally on these roads, to build that talent and that skill set, which would, I think, lends itself to many different disciplines. And then also the prospect of transcending a genre that is, compared to road cycling and mountain biking, not quite as high. It's easier to get there, and then once we get there to the top of that mountain, it's easier to see the peaks of the other tops, And so that's really what our strategy is.
And Ken, you've got into ultra racing. That's kind of the discipline, I guess, you're pursuing the most. Why do you think that suits you, ultra racing? Why do you like it?
Before I decided to do the ultra races, I used to be a mountain biker in Kenya, doing the local races. And I used to be really good in the off-road and technicals and skills, things like this. So when I started doing gravel, I really weighed my chances of winning shorter races and long races. I could watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and I also did my first KP peak earlier, before I really got into gravel. And I noticed there is this big gap in between us and the pro guys who are at the moment. And I used to have this kind of aims where I could want, if I'm doing something, I do it really well. And I knew I could go longer events like 200, 300. And these things that are the ones which triggered me like to try the ultra. Yeah, and yeah.
So what was your first ultra race that you did?
I did the Atlas mountain.
And how was that for a first experience?
I think I've never experienced what I experienced, like 4 days, having less food, less water, sleeping outside. I actually slept 1 day, because the other days I was always scared what might happen if I even close my eyes outside. And when I finished it, I was like, I will never try something like that.
But they won. Let the record be straight.
Yeah.
They won the pair competition in the
Wow.
Atlas. Yeah, its first race.
Yeah.
I guess so much of ultra racing is about your mentality and having a good mindset. Do you think that's something that you're good at, like pushing your limits in that way?
Since my first ultra, yeah, I knew, after recovering, I knew like I want to feel my limit again. I want to push more. Yeah, for sure.
Mikel, how does the kind of structure of Amani help riders to compete in these races that they want to do and, I guess, pursue the disciplines that they feel passionate about?
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting question because we've made a decision recently to expand our focus. You know, we had a bunch of goals when we first started out to kind of seed the idea that there are these athletes outside of Europe who really want to play this game. And for various reasons, they haven't been allowed to. And I think in the past 3 years, we've kind of established that, you know, there is a whole world out there who want to participate. But we needed a new dream. And the new dream now is really to take it a step further. And part of that for us is to allow our athletes to come in to the project, all the best athletes in East Africa, and pursue the disciplines that they want to pursue. So that would be road, that would be mountain bike, ultra, and gravel. We kind of want to build a program from the junior level up that of multifaceted athletes, people who can compete in any kind of race, because they have the technical skills, they have the endurance, and so yeah, that's what we're doing now.
And you talk about kind of building it from the ground up. Can you talk a bit about the development structure that you've put in place in the team?
Yeah, so I don't know how familiar any of you are with Kenya, but you might be familiar with their athletics program, and that it's been world dominating for generations. And our development program now, we have a house and a facility in the heart of this athletics sort of mecca, and it's called Iten. And when you go into this small town in the top of the Rift Valley at 2,500 meters, there's like a big kind of King Kong like archway that says Home of Champions. So you don't forget. And it's not for no reason that we established our program there, because we wanted to lean on the swagger and the confidence and that culture of excellence and try to kind of, inculcate that in our program. Because there is a lot of, you don't belong here, you'll never be good enough in cycling. And I think for them to come and see that, like, they said the same thing about runners. And now, like, Europeans come to train in Iten for running. And so, yeah, that's why we've centered our development program there.
And Ken, have you spent much time in Iten? And what do you think about it? What's it like to train there and be there?
Yeah, since the team house is up there, I spend most of my time training up there at altitude, and there's this atmosphere of sport, because there are so many runners, and the community knows that sport can change life, and they appreciate, like, even us as cyclists who train around. Yeah, and it's a good place.
Do you have much contact with the runners? Do you speak to them, exchange tips, or get advice from them?
Yeah, because we are training on the same roads, we are eating in the same hotels, I go watch marathons. They're also asking questions about cycling and stuff like this. There is always a connection.
And Mikel, you've been building the performance center in Iten for some time now. How is that development going? I know last time we spoke, you were looking for more funding to kind of complete that project.
Yeah.
Still looking, or?
I'm here with my cup. Look, everything that we've done in this project, it's kind of like and this will be an American reference lost on most, but a sort of field of dreams analogy where you have to build it and then people will come. You have to show people and then they will invest, you know, and for this particular project, so we have this house that like can house maybe 40, 50 athletes. And also on our property, we have a pump track built by Pumps for Peace, world-class pump track. You know, we have kids who are there all day long, just sending it, and it's super exciting and really amazing. And what we want to build on the top of the property is, you know, a service course. We have a thing called Spoke Academy, which is a kind of continuing education program for athletes to make sure that our athletes have like-for-like training against their Belgian counterparts or Italian counterparts, so that you don't have to hire 2 people to come and accompany the athlete when they get their World Tour contract. So we got these big ambitions, but like the problem is, again, you know, if you can't see what we want to do with this property, it's very difficult to convince people to care. And we also have all these huge ambitions on the racing side and everything else that we're doing. So, but we'll get there, you know, slowly but surely we're getting there.
Yeah, hopefully. And Ken, I want to talk a little bit about your season and the races that you've done this year, because that's kind of what the film Learning Ultra is focused on. I think your biggest result was probably coming second at Badlands, which is a huge ultra endurance race in Spain. Can you talk a little bit about that race? How was it for you? Because I know you were in the lead for a while and then you slipped back. How was the experience?
Badlands is one of the races I really used to look up to, and I used to follow it up a lot of times. Actually, I did it last year, but I didn't finish. I had to go halfway and go out because of a mechanical. But this year, I was focusing on finishing. Like that was my main goal. From the beginning, I was looking. I have been wanting to race with the top guys from the ultra racing, because back home the competition is pretty low. And
do you have like a particular point in that race which you remember as like when it got very difficult, like a low point? Because I think in the film we see you go through a lot of different emotions.
To say, I think the hard part was the Golafi Desert, when it was so hot, and also towards the end of the race when I was really worn out and my back was really locked. Apart from those two, I think I was really flowing in the race, and I was happy about it.
How much have you learned since we spoke before about your very first ultra race? How much have you learned and improved on since then? What are some key things that you think you've got better at since your first ultra?
Before even Badlands, this year I had started with a race around Rwanda. And before race around Rwanda, I had done like 2 ultra races. For me, it's been a learning experience, like to these races, like planning, training, and all this kind of stuff. And now Badlands was kind of a target for me, because I've been through so many things: sleep deprivation, route management, and these kind of things. So, yeah.
What's it like for you coming to do a race like that in Europe? How different is it from racing in East Africa or racing in the continent of Africa? How different does it feel?
The level of competition, and also nowadays, because media is everything, Badlands is quite followed up by quite a lot of people, and there's this sometimes pressure to perform and these kind of things, but also because back home, the young boys and generally the whole community is looking after on you, so you gotta do well. If you come to bad runs, you're gonna go hard.
Yeah, a bit of pressure maybe for you.
Which is good. It's a good pleasure.
And Mikel, I think it will be interesting to hear from your perspective. You've spoken a lot about the barriers, kind of the red tape that you face getting over to Europe to do these races. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that the team faces to get riders in these events?
Oh, to be honest, in Europe, we've seen so much support. I'm actually shocked, and it's a kudos to the cycling industry and those race organizers. Like, everybody has really bent over backwards to kind of make it easier. I think there has been a sort of collective recognition that maybe it's difficult, and because of all of the projects that have come before and failed. And so I really, we can't say enough about the support that we've received. I think the United States is a bit different, if I'm honest. And not from the race organizer perspective, but just from like government policy, getting visas. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. It's a nightmare. It costs a fortune. And, you know, especially in the gravel space, like this is meant to be sort of the mecca of gravel, but they don't want to let anybody in. And so, yeah, that's a tricky one that we're still navigating, but we've got great partners who are, you know, in the fight with us and helping us to navigate these things, and so we keep fighting.
Yeah, exactly. And how, we can have a round of applause for that.
Thank you.
And I am interested to know as well, like we're seeing the UCI become more involved in the gravel scene now. There's the UCI Gravel World Series, and I think traditionally in road racing especially, when the UCI gets involved, that means more rules, that means more challenges. How has that impacted your race calendar and what you want to do?
I used to be way darker on this subject than I am now, if I'm honest. Because it was those rules that was one of the principal hurdles to our entry to the sport. You know, with the way that they farm out, this is a very political conversation, so I'm going to try to navigate it in my best lawyerly way. The way that they farm out responsibility to national federations and then don't necessarily provide the training and the oversight for those national federations to basically be a conduit for development can create localized gatekeepers, right? And then sort of now, and having those rules and needing those licenses, which then of course meaning you have to go through these gatekeepers to get to the sport. In gravel, we were like, oh no, like, why would we do this to ourselves, you know? But I have to say that I think the UCI also does bring something very interesting, which is the professionalization of a genre, you know? And so as long as there is a counterpoint, a free space, then to have like a space that's, you know, rules-based and organized and centralized, etc., makes sense. It has a place. And as you will see, like we now have a UCI gravel race that we organize. We want to have a foot in that door, but we also want to make sure that there are other doors, you know? And that's what's nice about gravel.
Yeah, I remember you saying to me about how some of the riders on the team couldn't get a high enough place on the starting grid because they hadn't done many races to get UCI points. So your solution was to create a UCI race, which I think definitely sums up the whole kind of ethos of the team. Can you talk a little bit about organizing those races? How has it been? What kind of difference has it made to have the opportunity on kind of home soil?
Like I told you, I mean, you heard what I said. The first challenge that we identified was lack of racing opportunities. So rather than cry about it, we just organized our own races. And we were like, hey, why don't we just invite the best in the world to come to Kenya, and now you can feel what it's like to race in a territory that's unfamiliar, where the fans are different, the food is different, you have to travel far distances to get there. And we're talking about a sport that's decided by marginal differences, you know? And those marginal differences we've already seen. We overperform in our own races against the best in the world. So they're important. And it just also underscores the point that like if cycling is only based in Europe in terms of racing, then Europeans will always have a natural advantage. Which is why now going forward, like, I mean, we organize a number of races, but like that has a ceiling in terms of our impact. I mean, we're organizing 5 races a year at the moment, but we can't organize 50. That's not a smart allocation of our resources. And so I think one of the things that we're going to pivot to going forward already next year is that we want to use the platform, the small platform that we have, but your limited attention span, to showcase what other people are doing on the continent. There's a lot of really interesting racing in Africa that you've never heard about, you've never seen, with thousands and thousands of fans who get really passionate and really excited about it. You may have seen it in Rouleur in like print form, but you've not heard, you're not seen, you're not felt, and we want to really take you there. And if we do that, right, and these races become more viable, and then potentially it could be part of an enhanced calendar, right? Where cycling doesn't just necessarily need to take place in Europe. There can be other places, and I think the whole industry needs that. There needs to be, just like in the world, we're entering into this multipolar world. Why shouldn't cycling also be multipolar? To a certain extent, right? I'm not talking about the Tour and the Giro, they will always be important. But let's have new stories, new heroes, new fans.
So does that come from media, from social media, from filming, from creating content? Because that's obviously a big part of what you guys do.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the solution, do you think? It's just getting more eyes on these races?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have to care first. If you don't care, then we're not getting anywhere. We need to get to traditional cycling fans and show you that and something exciting that you've never heard about is happening in this sport steeped in tradition with 120 years and blah, 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 all the stories and Fausto Coppi wore this color underwear and all of this. Yes, I know it's important and exciting, but there are other stories to tell. And we have great storytellers, like Finley Lamarck is in the crowd somewhere here. He's the one who filmed this video. And we have other Kenyan-based storytellers who can add a particular lens that we think is fresh, that we think is exciting, and we hope will have some resonance with, cycling fans.
I think you've mentioned it before as well, is the kind of how that's almost another barrier for riders, though, and that's another pressure that maybe European pros don't have to deal with, is building a brand for themselves and doing all of their own content creation and stuff. So how do you kind of balance that?
We're taking the burden off of them, and I'm putting it on Finley. Where is he? There he is, over there. And Wango, and all of our social media guys. It was wrong. That was a mistake, honestly, that we had to learn from. There was this privateer model and all of this, and we're telling all these guys, you have to be 110% better than your counterpart already naturally to get any attention. And then we also need to do 5 other things. And it's just impossible, We need our guys and girls to be able to focus on doing what they do, and we'll tell stories around them.
Yeah, and Ken, we were talking before about having races like Migration, like Safari Gravel. What is the experience like for you racing on home soil? Does it make a difference? Do you prefer it, or what does it feel like compared to racing in Europe or in other countries?
Racing back home is always different from racing up here in Europe or any other place, because back home you feel like you have that authority, to do more. You're more flexible and you can try different tactics in races and things like those. But also you have so many people around, your teammates, everyone around. You have this energy, even to challenge the guys who come from Europe. And with less traveling, that you are racing back home and more settled, it's always good to race back home.
How have you found the response to you doing well in Europe? What have you found the community in Europe like? Have you found it to be welcoming, or any challenges with that kind of breaking into the gravel scene in Europe?
Competition in Europe is higher, and you're expected to be at the top. Also coming from Africa and these kind of challenges, visa and all these stuff. But at the end, it's you as a rider to really have that second gear and push hard and prove that you belong here and changes.
I've seen you've spent a lot of time with Lachlan Morton, who is a big supporter of your project. He obviously won Unbound this year, for anyone who doesn't know. What's it been like to work with someone like him who has a lot of experience, and does he give you some tips maybe?
Lachlan is a very good mentor generally and good support for the team because you can never come with a small excuse. Yeah, so you always have to aim high. And I've watched a lot of Lachlan's videos apart from the course and everything, and I think they have made me like who I'm becoming and more focused in these long events.
Mikel, do you have anything to add to that? I mean, Lachlan's been a big supporter of your project. I think you mentioned to me before that you've also had his coach helping you do some talent scouting and things like that. How's it been to kind of have that support?
Lachlan's one of these guys that, like, I don't know, I'm not somebody who gets like starstruck, and I don't really care about like celebrities in general. And mainly because I'm always worried that they won't be as like, cool in person. You know, I'm always worried to meet like a person I like admire because I think like in person that they'll somehow let me down. And Lachlan is the exact opposite. He almost is more impressive in person. His natural instinct to always do the right thing, to sacrifice, himself and his platform to support other people. Like, I don't know what motivates him, where he got that from, but he is a unicorn in that way. Mm-hmm. And he's been with us since the very beginning, like really the very beginning when we had nothing. And he's always just gone out of his way to help us advance the cause. And so to have someone like him in your corner, it means everything. It's really important.
I think you've spoken before, I think you mentioned it on a podcast once, how important it is to listen to the people who are actually in this situation, who are actually racing. I think you've said how you really want to be wary of Amani being a charity, or you going into a country that, as someone from Europe, that you're not familiar with and kind of not listening. Can you talk a bit about that and how important that's been?
It's a strong lesson that I learned in my day job. If you have the audacity to go and try to do something meaningful in someone else's country, the first thing you better do is shut the hell up and listen. Because you think that you're going to bring your ideas and your, like whatever works in your country, and you're just going to bring it there and it's just going to apply. It's just an exercise in vanity. Mm-hmm. And I've had that, put in like a pie in my face so many times in my professional career. It's just a truism for me. And so, I think like for me, in terms of even like the way that our management is structured, everyone who is not East African has someone that they are training to replace them. Like, we want this to be Africa's team. Mm-hmm. From not just the riders, but from the management, from the owners, from everything. And to the point where someone just goes, like, you don't see me on this stage anymore. There is the time, and it's coming soon. And we have great people coming, and I can't wait until Rouleur sends the email, and I'm like, yes, I will sit there and not here, because I think that's critically important. There has to be ownership and buy-in from East Africa.
I think, like, as we're kind of coming to the end, it's really important to look to the future and look to the kind of long-term goals of the project, because, like, from the very start, it's always been about driving progress. What do you kind of think are some of the key things that still need to be done? I mean, obviously there's many, but in terms of a long-term vision, what do you want?
I'm smiling because we spent all day with our key partners talking about our long-term vision. Mm-hmm. We had a dream, as I said, when we first started. And if I'm honest, and this is not us patting each other on the back, but like, I don't think we could have imagined that the cycling industry would have been so receptive to a project like ours. And it's so encouraging. And at the same time, like, we're not nearly where we want to be. Obviously, with Biniam's success this year, the concept has been proven, in the sense that, like, with opportunity will come results. But he's still 1 in a billion. And we want to build a structure that just reproduces athletes of that caliber over and over consistently, so that it just becomes normal. We normalize the idea that there are, world-class athletes that are coming outside of Europe to play our game.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so important with the success of Mungai and Mikel, who was obviously, for those who maybe don't know, he was the first black African to win a Tour de France stage this year. I think that got so much attention, but I guess it's really important to be aware, like you said there, I just want to stress that point, that that is 1 in a million, and it doesn't mean that the work is done, right?
Yeah, there's always that, like, there's always that penchant to just be like, well, I guess nothing left to see here, right? But then it's a one-off, you know? And so, like I said, he inspired a multitude on the continent of young athletes. Now we have someone to say, this is not theoretical, it's real. We've been looking for this champion, and we have him. Wonderful. But, like, now we have to hustle, right? We build that structure around it, and we say, this is, you know, if you work hard, if you train hard, you know, Mary, you, Kenneth, you can do whatever the hell you want, you know? And we're with you all the way.
Yeah. And Kenneth, we're talking a lot about this wider structure of Armani and the goals of the team, but I want to talk a little bit about your specific goals personally as a rider. What do you want to achieve? What races are you targeting? What do you want to win in the future?
I want to continue with the ultra races, and as much as I learn, because I have been learning quite a lot for the last years, I want to win more. I want to win more ultra and like do longer events, not just races, also like challenges like riding like around East Africa, riding across Africa, these kind of challenges. And for sure, I want to inspire young boys and girls back home.
And I think it's, yeah, like you say, it's so important to inspire the kind of next generation. How does it feel for you to kind of be doing that with what you're doing? Does it feel really important to you?
Yeah, it's really good, because when I'm doing like bad runs, I'm one among thousands of kids who don't be in Spain. So I know I don't take it lightly. And whenever I get results, I know it's not mine. It belongs, it's appreciated by more than, yeah. It's hard to explain, but when you go back home, people are always happy and like encouraging you to do more. And that's the thing that keeps me driving more in training and everything.
I think that's such a nice note to end on, really. Really appreciate your time and for you guys coming to share this with everyone here. So thank you everyone for listening as well.